Have you ever looked back on a relationship and thought, what was I thinking? Maybe it was a romantic partner, a friend, a boss, a business partner. Maybe someone lied to you over and over again. Maybe they manipulated you. Maybe they took advantage of your kindness. And afterward, everyone around you said the same thing. I saw it coming, but you didn't. Why? And on the flip side, why do some people struggle to trust genuinely good people, even when they've done nothing wrong? Today, we're exploring one of the most fascinating parts of human psychology: trust. Welcome back to The Human Pattern. I'm Liv. Before we jump in, if you enjoy exploring the psychology behind why people think, feel, and behave the way they do, I'd love for you to subscribe or follow the podcast. And if you find yourself leaving an episode with more questions than answers, then you're exactly where I hope you'll be. So subscribe wherever you're listening so you don't miss future conversations. All right, let's get into it. Over the last several episodes, we've talked about childhood, mental shortcuts, habits, emotions, and the stories that we tell ourselves. Today, we're going to see how all of those come together in one of the most important parts of being human: learning who to trust. Many people think that trust is a feeling. Psychologically, it's closer to a prediction. Every time you meet someone, your brain starts asking questions. Are they safe? Are they predictable? Do they mean what they say? Will they protect me or hurt me? The interesting part is your brain answers those questions long before you consciously realize it. It uses your past experiences, your beliefs, your emotions, your memories, even your cognitive biases. In other words, trust isn't built from scratch. It's filtered through everything that you've lived before. Remember when we talked about childhood writing the first draft of who we become? Here's where that matters. If chaos felt normal growing up, calm might be a little bit boring. If love was inconsistent, consistency might actually feel very unfamiliar. If affection had to be earned, you might find yourself chasing people instead of simply receiving love. This doesn't happen because we're trying to make bad choices. It happens because our brains often confuse familiar with safe. That's one of the most important ideas we've talked about on this podcast, and it shows up in relationships all the time. We love first impressions. We talk about good vibes. Yeah, we clicked immediately. I knew I could trust them. Sometimes those instincts are incredibly helpful, but sometimes they are wildly inaccurate. Our brains make snap judgments using very little information. Someone smiles. They seem confident. They're attractive. They remind us of someone we already like. And suddenly our brain fills in all these blanks. They must be trustworthy. Psychologists call this the halo effect. When we notice one positive quality, we tend to assume that there are many more. The opposite also happens. So, one awkward interaction, one mistake, or one thing that feels off, and we may assume someone's character based on almost nothing. Because remember, our brains love shortcuts, even when it comes to people. One question I've always found very interesting is this: how do intelligent people end up manipulating relationships? How do intelligent people end up in manipulative relationships? Whether it's with a romantic partner, a cult leader, a scammer, or even a charismatic boss. The answer usually isn't that they were unintelligent. Manipulation really begins with manipulation, right? It often begins with a connection, attention, validation, understanding. People don't usually earn trust by demanding it. They earn it gradually. And then once trust exists, they begin asking for more time, more money, more loyalty, more isolation, more compromise. Rarely all at once, though. Almost always one small step at a time. That's part of what makes manipulation so difficult to recognize from the inside. People often ask, how did they not see the warning signs? Sometimes they did, but seeing something and believing it are two completely different things. Remember cognitive dissonance? If someone has invested years into a relationship, admitting the truth becomes incredibly painful. Our brains naturally search for explanations that preserve the relationship. Things like they're just stressed, they didn't mean it, they'll change, they've had a hard life. And sometimes those things are true. Sometimes they're stories that we tell ourselves because the alternative feels very overwhelming. Again, this is not stupidity. It's human psychology. Now, let's talk about something many people experience. What happens after trust is broken? Some people become even more trusting. They desperately want to prove not everyone is the same. Others stop trusting almost everyone. Their brain learns, this hurt. Don't let this happen again. Neither response is unusual. Your brain is trying to protect you. But protection can sometimes become overprotection. If every new person is judged by someone else's behavior, the people in front of you never really get a chance. Healing isn't forgetting about what happened. It's learning how to evaluate each person based on who they actually are, not just on who hurt you before. Healthy trust isn't blind trust, and it isn't constant suspicion either. Healthy trust is built slowly. So it pays attention. It allows people to earn access over time. It notices whether words consistently match actions, whether someone takes responsibility when they're wrong, whether they respect boundaries, whether they remain consistent when there's nothing to gain. Trust isn't built by grand gestures. It's built by repeated small moments, consistency, honesty, reliability, over time. Those become evidence, not just hope. Trust affects every area of our lives. Our relationships, our friendships, our careers, our families, our leaders, our communities, even our ability to trust ourselves. The better we understand how trust is built and how it's broken, the better equipped we are to recognize healthy relationships and unhealthy ones. Not perfectly, but more intentionally. So this week, I want you to think about someone that you trust deeply and ask yourself, why? What have they consistently done that earned your trust? Now think about someone you've struggled to trust. Is your hesitation based on something they've done? Or could part of it come from a story your brain learned long before you met them? No judgment, just curiosity. Because understanding how we trust other people often teaches us something about ourselves. Remember, trust isn't built in a single conversation, and it's rarely lost in one either. It's created through patterns, repeated experiences, repeated choices, repeated honesty. And like everything we've talked about on this podcast, those patterns tell a story. Next episode, we're going to explore another question that fascinated psychologists for decades. Why do smart people believe things that simply aren't true? We'll dive into confirmation bias, misinformation, conspiracy theories, groupthink, and why changing someone's mind is often harder than simply giving them new information. If today's episode made you think a little bit differently about the people in your life, I'd love to have you back for the next conversation. Be sure to subscribe or follow wherever you're listening so that you don't miss any future episodes. And if you're enjoying The Human Pattern, leaving a review or a rating is one of the best ways to help more curious minds discover the show. Until next time, stay curious, question the pattern, and I'll see you in the next episode.